welcome to Impact. I am Pastor Donna from Impact Church in Aurora, South Dakota. So each week we are doing our devotional together online, and it's always here every Friday on Facebook and YouTube. So go ahead and subscribe, like us on Facebook, all that good stuff so that you never miss anything from us. So today we are still in book of Mark. But today we're going to be all in the chapter 14. And then next week we will go into 15. And then we're going to switch over the following week and go into our brand new Lenten study. And there's a book that goes along with it that we are United Methodists, and we have what's called our Dakotas Conference. And they are following one particular book in particular. And on our Facebook page, I will give you a link if you want to order that book. Totally not required, but if you'd like to follow along in the book, that would be awesome, because we will cover everything, I think, a chapter or two at a time each week. And I can't believe that we are almost into the Lenten season. So it's like, wow, it feels like it was just Christmas, right? So kind of have to get back on the bandwagon and start planning that. Well, let's go into chapter 14 in the book of Mark. So it begins like this. Now the Passover and the feast of unleavened bread were only 2 days away, and the chief priests and the teachers of the law were looking for some sly way to arrest Jesus and kill him. But not during the feast, they said, or the people may riot. So how interesting. They already are going into their Passover season knowing that their ultimate goal here is to kill Jesus. So, but we can't do it during the feast. No. We're going to wait until after. So, yeah, kind of interesting. While he was in Bethany, reclining at the table in the home of a man known as Simon the leper, a woman came with an alabaster jar of very expensive perfume, made of pure nard. She broke the jar and poured the perfume on his head. Some of those present were saying indignantly to one another, "Why this waste of perfume? It could have been sold for more than a year's wages and the money given to the poor." And they rebuked her harshly. "Leave her alone," said Jesus. "Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you will always have with you, and you can help them any time you want, but you will not always have me. She did what she could. She poured perfume on my body beforehand to prepare for my burial. I tell you the truth, wherever the gospel is preached throughout the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." Then Judas Iscariot, one of the 12, went to the chief priests to betray Jesus to them. They were delighted to hear this and promised to give him money. So he watched for an opportunity to hand him over. So it's kind of interesting what is really going on here. So let's go into the Lord's Supper scene. So on the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, when it was customary to sacrifice the Passover lamb, Jesus' disciples asked him, "Where do you want us to go and make preparations for you to eat the Passover?" So he sent 2 of his disciples, telling them, "Go into the city, and a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him. Say to the owner of the house he enters, 'The teacher asked, where is my guest room, where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large upper room, furnished and ready. Make preparations for us there." The disciples left, went into the city, and found things just as Jesus had told them. So they prepared the Passover. When evening came, Jesus arrived with the 12. While they were reclining at the table eating, he said, "I tell you the truth. One of you will betray me, one who is eating with me." They were saddened, and one by one they said to him, "Well, surely not I." "It is one of the 12, he replied, "one who dips bread into the bowl with me. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But woe to that man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born." While they were eating, Jesus took bread, gave thanks, and broke it, and gave it to his disciples, saying, "Take, this is my body." Then he took the cup, gave thanks, and offered it to them, and they all drank from it. "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many," he said to them. "I tell you the truth, I will not drink again of the fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it anew in the kingdom of God." When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. So we're getting closer into the scene of where Jesus is going to be condemned to death. And so we're going to get into really everything that happened right before that, and what does it all mean, and what are some of the symbolism that we will see. And some of the symbolism even goes into chapter 15. So we are going to go into the section where Jesus predicts Peter's denial. "You will all fall away," Jesus said, "for it is written, 'I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep will be scattered.' But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter declared, "Even if all fall away, I will not." "I tell you the truth," Jesus answered. "Today, yes, tonight, before the rooster crows twice, you yourself will disown me 3 times." But Peter insisted emphatically, "Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you." And all the others said the same. So they went to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took Peter, James, and John along with him, and he began to be deeply distressed and troubled. "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death," he said to them. "Stay here and keep watch." Going a little farther, he fell to the ground and prayed that if possible the hour might pass from him. "Abba, Father," he said, "everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what you will." Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Simon," he said to Peter, "are you asleep? Could you not keep watch for 1 hour? Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak." Once more he went away and prayed the same thing. And when he came back, he again found them sleeping, because their eyes were heavy. They did not know what to say to him. Returning the 3rd time, he said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Enough, the hour has come. Look, the Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer." So let's take a little pause and to discuss some of the scenes that we've already come across in chapter 14. So first of all, we see that they are gathered around and they're going to have this Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is the beginning of their Passover season. And right away, Jesus actually goes ahead and invites Simon the leper, so meaning that he had leprosy, to the table. And that is totally against Jewish law at that time. And the chief priests and the Jewish elite were watching this happen, and they were grossly disgusted by it, because if you had anything that was wrong with you, you were going to be deemed unclean, and therefore you should not at all be, sitting next to them or eating with them for sure. So they already were quite dismayed at Jesus's welcoming to this man. But then comes a unnamed woman. She's not given a name in Mark, and she has this alabaster jar which is full of perfume. And she is also being welcomed into Jesus' presence. But here we go again. Jesus disobeys the Jewish law, because this woman is actually arriving to the table alone. So Jewish law proclaims that any woman, whether married or not, and really of any age, must be accompanied at all times by a male. And she was alone. So that was very, very bad in the Jewish elite's eyes, in the chief priest's eyes. And that was another thing that they were kind of adding to their mental list of things that Jesus had done that went strictly against the Jewish law. They're like, ooh, okay, well, we can throw this when we have our trial because we're going to bring this up and this up and this up. And these are all the things that he did that we are going to be calling him blasphemous. I cannot say that word. But so it's very, very interesting. And even Jesus' own disciples were kind of shocked that this woman was anointing Jesus with oil. And normally that's not even done until the person is dead. So why was she doing that? There is really no information as to why. How did she know Jesus was going to be there? How did she know that he was going to be eventually killed? There's no like angel visiting her that's being written here. There's no dream that she had, and it doesn't say like any of the disciples went and told her. So it's really a mystery as to how this unnamed woman knew what to do and where to go to find Jesus to anoint him with this oil. And we have some of the disciples that are saying, well, what a waste of this expensive oil. I mean, he's alive. Why would you do that? And Jesus is very cautious, and he just sticks up for her and tells the disciples to straight up leave her alone. So good for him. But of course, that kind of puts him more in danger with the others, that's for sure. So then we go into the Last Supper scene. And there's actually two main events here that happen. So first of all, Jesus again talks about his impending death. And we see that he's already told them 3 other times before, but they're still not really cluing in that he's going to be leaving them. And then he's also going a step further in saying, some of you, one of you of the 12, is going to betray me today, tonight. And everybody's like, well, no, not I. This can't be me. I would follow you to the ends of the earth. But that's not the case. So as we continue on with the story, we'll find out who it is exactly and what they did. So then we go into kind of the end of the Lord's Supper when he is talking about the bread and the wine. So here is the very first instance that we have this vision of what the Holy Communion, the very first Holy Communion, looked like. And he's taking this mysterious interpretation of the bread and the wine and letting them know, hey, this is the way that I can commune with you. This bread is my body, the wine is my blood, and this is my new covenant for all of you. So pay attention to that, because that really sets the tone, and we see that this tradition gets carried on even to today's churches. I mean, how crazy is that? For something that has been going on for 2,000 years, we're still doing it. So it's pretty amazing, actually. So then we see Jesus predicts Peter's denial. But not only that, we see everyone travel with Jesus to Gethsemane. And here is where it gets super interesting, because Jesus is already starting to grasp his own demise. And I can't imagine what it would feel like to know that you are about to pass away. And he is really battling the psychological effects of knowing that he's going to die, and also have a pretty gruesome way to die. And so he's very scared, and he's not afraid to admit it. And he's praying out to Jesus, but he is kind of expecting a little bit for his disciples to kind of pay attention here, because his time with them is running out, and they really aren't really grasping that. So he really wants them to pay attention to what he is telling them in the very limited time that he has left. So he finds them asleep, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And he's like, you know what, guys, we need to wake up, because this is the time that we need to go. And he's trying to tell them you know what, hey guys, you need to absorb everything I'm telling you because you are going to be carrying on the Word of God. I'm not going to be here to physically do that, but you all will be here. So listen up. So it's kind of interesting, and it's a good, metaphor for us too to always keep watch and keep Jesus in our sight. And I've preached on that before. We have such a world that is pulling us in different directions, and it's really hard to kind of forget about Jesus during our day, but we really need to keep our eyes open and be alert, be awake, and keep our eyes on Jesus the whole time. And how do we do that? Our world is so loud. We have politics going on. We've got the pandemic going on. We have our work schedules, our children's schedules, our family schedules. We're just pulled in so many directions. And how do we bring just a little bit of calm to our chaos? So Jesus says, keep alert, keep awake. He wants them to listen to him and watch him. And same with us. He wants us to listen to him and to watch him. So let's go forward. So just as he was speaking, Judas, one of the 12, appeared. With him was a crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard. Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, Rabbi, and kissed him. The men seized Jesus and arrested him. Then one of those standing near drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. Am I leading a rebellion, said Jesus, that you would come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I was with you teaching in the temple courts, and you did not arrest me. But the scriptures must be fulfilled. Then everyone deserted him and fled. He keeps on saying, it will happen as it is written. The scriptures must be fulfilled. And it seems like it is going on empty ears with the disciples. They're still not getting this. So a young man wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus. When they seized him, he fled naked, leaving his garment behind. So they took Jesus to the high priest, and all the chief priests, elders, and teachers of the law came together. Peter followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest. There he sat with the guards and warmed himself at the fire. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for evidence against Jesus so that they could put him to death. But they did not find any. Many, in fact, testified falsely against him, but their statements did not agree. Then some stood up and gave this false testimony against him. Well, we heard him say, I will destroy this man-made temple, and in 3 days will build another, not made by man. Yet even then their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus, Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you? But Jesus remained silent and gave no answer. Again the high priest asked him, Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One? I am, said Jesus, and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. The high priest tore his clothes. Why do we need any more witnesses? He asked. You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think? They all condemned him as worthy of death. Then some began to spit at him. They blindfolded him, struck him with their fists, and said, Prophesy. And the guards took him and beat him. So while Peter was below in the courtyard, remember he's getting all warm and toasty by the fire with the guards, one of the servant girls of the high priest came by. When she saw Peter warming himself, she looked closely at him. You also were with that Nazarene Jesus, she said. But he denied it. I don't know or understand what you're talking about, he said, and went out into the empty entryway. When the servant girl saw him there, she said again to those standing around, This fellow is one of them. And again, he denied it. So that's 2 times. After a little while, those standing near said to Peter, "Well, surely you are one of them, for you are a Galilean." He began to call down curses on himself, and he swore to them, "I don't know this man. I don't know who you're talking about." Immediately the rooster crowed the second time. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken to him. "Before the rooster crows twice, you will disown me 3 times." And he broke down and wept. So here ends the reading for chapter 14. So now, kind of looking over what we just read here, we're going into these trials, and these trials are held within the Sanhedrin, and it's made up of all these Jewish chief priests and these Jewish leaders, elders, any of the Jewish elites. And they were even trying to find people that had actually witnessed Jesus do some of these, false testimony acts. And they couldn't find anybody, to really come and give a false testimony. So they themselves decided to go ahead and be the ones to give the false testimony. And they said that Jesus told them, or they had overheard him saying that he's going to tear down the man-made temple and build his own, because he's, to be worshipped, and he is to be this fake God. And that's never come out of Jesus's mouth at all. That was never his intention. So you can already see that they are doing whatever they can, no matter if it's lying, to get what they want. And it's very, very sad. But we see all these false accusations being really thrown at Jesus, and he just remains silent. And it starts to irritate them, like, why isn't he saying anything? He's not even trying to fight back. And so finally they asked him, "Are you going to say anything? Are you really the Son of Man?" And he answers so clearly with just 2 words, "I am." So he's clearly stating, yes, I am the Son of God. I am the Messiah. I am the Savior. And that was so crazy to have someone say that. I mean, that really was blasphemous in the eyes of the Jewish elite. So much so that the person that was asking him this got so frustrated he tore his clothes. Literally tore his clothes. I can't imagine being so frustrated that I would tear my clothes. So you can tell that answer just got to him deep in his soul and just irritated him beyond. So have you ever been that upset at somebody? I don't know if I have. Maybe I have. But I don't think I would tear my clothes. But such an odd reaction, right? Can't imagine. I mean, I don't think it's real common for people nowadays to tear clothes, which is a good thing. So, but it's kind of interesting. But then we see that we're going into chapter 15. And so I'll give you a little bit of preview of what we're going to talk about next week. So they're bringing Jesus then to Pilate. And it's interesting because we know that Pilate was the governor and also the highest ranking member of Rome. And it's interesting that Mark only says the name Pilate. He doesn't tell his readers anything about Pilate. He knows that the people that he is writing to, that will read his book, already knows who Pilate is. So that tells you how well known Pilate was, for bad or for good. So it's really interesting because if you think about it, the Roman Christians, even for generations after, they all knew who Pilate was. And 2,000 years later, we're still talking about Pilate. And we pretty much, we even have references of Pilate come up in TV shows and movies. And, for the majority of us, we know who Pilate was. So it's very, very interesting. And I like that Pilate, at first, he's like, guys, I understand that you're upset with this man, Jesus, but, He really hasn't done anything. And what are we supposed to do? And they're like, well, we want you to kill him. We want you to make a public display of killing this man. And he's like, why? He's like, what has he done? And so they mentioned some different areas of the things that they had said he did. And even then, Pilate's like, I don't know, it's not really enough, I don't think. But as Pilate was protesting, the crowds around and the chief priests and elders and teachers, they are all beginning to chant, crucify him, crucify him. And so, in order to please the crowd, Pilate agrees to go ahead and crucify Jesus, even though he really has no legal ground to do so. So I'm going to leave it there, actually, because next week we will go into chapter 15. But I thought it was so, so interesting. And looking back, even when the disciples are in Gethsemane and their eyes are closed and they're sleeping, it kind of gives you pause because you wonder in your own life, what are you sleeping? What are you not noticing that you should maybe take heed, take notice of? So is there anything that you need to keep your eyes open and alert for? Is there something that you should be aware of that it seems so blindingly obvious to others, but maybe it's not to you? So, and are you keeping Jesus in your sight? Are you listening to Jesus? And are you keeping watch over Jesus? So answer that kind of in the comments below, what you really think about chapter 14. So there's so much goodness, good information, good different scenes that we see, all packed into one chapter. So, and I think you're going to see that portrayed also in chapter 15. So, and it's good timing because we're getting into the Lenten season, and Lenten season is really starting to go through this death and resurrection of Jesus and what does it mean for us. And then we get to really reflect on, well, why did Jesus need to die? What was the purpose of his death? What does it mean to the people then? And what does it mean to our lives now? So I'm going to leave that with you for this week, but I just hope everyone has a great, safe week, and just give yourself a little bit of Selah. We have this break time that we definitely need with the world that's trying to take all of our time and all of our energy into all these different areas. Sometimes we just need to sit and breathe and take a break. And so give yourself some time this week, maybe even just 10 minutes in your week, and give yourself that much needed break. So that's my challenge for you this week. But I will see you next week. So go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube and like us on Facebook, and I'll see you next Friday. Thank you.